Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Welcome into the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us today. Rick is a partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, over 20 years of experience in the financial industry. And if you have questions about retirement, can I retire? When can I retire? Will my money last as long as we need it to? Are we going to be okay? Talk with the team at Safeguard. They're here to help you figure out where you are. Income, investment, taxes, healthcare, legacy planning, Social Security, income part, Medicare, healthcare part. It's all about you. What do you want out of retirement? How are you going to spend your time? How much income do you need? Where's it going to come from? All of that. Rick and the team are here to help. It is 800-700-1980, no cost to chat with them. You can always learn more on the website, safeguardinvestment.com. Find out about upcoming events. Rick and the team are always putting on events around the area, safeguardinvestment.com. All right, let's go. We touched on market volatility not long ago. We're going to touch on it again because I think for retirees, Rick, market volatility represents one of the scariest parts of their retirement strategy. And this month, we've seen the markets go down and then come back. And it's kind of that time, I think, where, to me, as a 64, soon-to-be 65-year-old, one of the challenges is I need growth, but I don't want to lose what I've got. So I need safety. Safety versus growth. I think that's one of the biggest challenges for some. Do you think so? Or?
Yeah, no, totally. Especially like, what you were saying when, let's say somebody's retiring or they're planning for retirement and they're going to need income. The last thing that they want to do is be pulling money out of their investments as they're going down, because now what's happening is they're intensifying their losses. If, let's say, they're pulling 4 or 5% out of their investments in order to live on those investments, and the market's down 10%, now they're down 14 or 15, and then going into the following year, they still have to pay their bills. So if the market's down, I can't exactly call, the electric company up or the phone company or the property tax collector and say, hey, listen, can I put you off until the market rebounds? So now they're drawing into those investments and intensifying the losses. And now people are losing sleep. They're like, oh my God, when is this going to come back? Is it 6 months from now, a year from now? How much, can I afford to lose? So this is the scenario where it's very important that, you have a proper balance of safety versus volatility and making sure that your particular allocation is designed around you and your specific situation based on what's most important to you going forward, income, expenses, and all the rest of it. Rather than just a bunch of general rules of thumb that you may be, Googling on the internet or, you see on TV or you're researching. Again, we want to stay away from general rules. And when it comes to retirement planning, fine tune it to your specific situation and make sure that you have a proper balance going forward so that way when there is volatility, you're not stressed.
Right. And I would imagine you may have a client or two that are 100% in the market. You may have a client or two that are 0% in the market. Most, I would think, when they come in as a pre-retiree, they probably have 90% of their money at risk. Once they get a retirement plan in place, you figure out where the income's going to come from, how much they need. Maybe now it's 60% is safe, 40% in the market. Maybe it's 40-60 the other way. Maybe it's 80-20. Safe and risk, or the other way. I mean, it really depends on whom you're sitting down with, doesn't it?
100%. And the other thing too is, like you were saying, when they first come in, and you gave a perfect example of it, they come in and let's say, you're right, it's real easy for them to have 90% of their money in the market because let's say, they've been working for a firm. They've been contributing to their 401ks over, 30 years, 35 years of their working lifetime. It's really an accumulation plan. So the money's coming out of the paycheck. You're really not thinking about it, which is great. It's just building, building, building. So then when you come to retirement, you have most of your assets in the market. So now that you're not going to get a paycheck anymore from the firm, you're going into retirement. Now we're going into what we call income distribution phase as opposed to accumulation phase. Now we have to completely redesign your strategy based upon that. Now you're going into income distribution phase, and we need to decide, okay, how much money is correct for you to be in the market where you're still keeping up with inflation, getting a fair rate of return, but you're not taking on too much risk where it can hurt you over the long haul. So that needs to be a proper balance. The other thing too is we need to make sure that the income is positioned in such a way that regardless of market volatility, you're like, okay, great, my income is secure. I don't need to worry about that. And then we have to make sure that we have, money set aside in case of emergencies, things that, hit us by surprise or for the extras. That way we're not dipping into our income money and now reducing our income because now we're pulling money out of that pocket, or maybe we're affecting the growth bucket. And so it's really making sure that this is a well-devised plan and, of course, specific to one's situation.
And that's where Rick and the team really, it's because it is about you. How can they help you in your situation? Maybe you need $20,000 a month in income. Maybe you need $3,000. You got a pension, you got Social Security, you don't need as much. Everybody's situation is unique, and that's how Rick and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group look at it. How can they help you, and can they help you? They don't know until you reach out. But I think one thing that you get out of this phone call, sitting down with Rick, and obviously he always says, hey, if you give him 45 minutes, he's going to give you 2 ideas that will enhance whatever it is you are currently doing. Well, I would think that's worth 45 minutes. But I think the biggest thing is you get clarity into your situation. Where you are you on the right track? Do you need to make a tweak here or there? Where are you? That's kind of what I think you get out of this for sure. 800-700-1980 is the number. There's no cost for this. 800-700-1980. Rick, I want you to hear this soundbite. This comes from Tom Siamatis. He's a chief market economist for AE Wealth Management, which is one of the top RIA firms in the nation, according to Financial Advisor Magazine's 2024 rankings. But here's what he said about the market.
To trust your financial well-being and your future, to saying, I'm going to pick the top of the market to get out, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait until it bottoms out and I'm going to jump back in. I don't know anybody that can do that effectively, and more so, I think it becomes a recipe for the destruction of your personal wealth.
Here's an example of that, and we've always heard, Rick, obviously it's time in the market, not timing the market. For example, August 5th was when the market dropped 1,000 points. That was the worst day on the S&P in 2024. Later that week, the market went up 2.3%, and one day it was the largest uptick in 2024. So within 1 week, you had the worst day and the best day of the year. You can't time the market. Or can you? Maybe you can with your experience, Rick, right?
Yeah, I have a crystal ball. Unfortunately, it's broken. Yeah, and that's where, the fundamentals really come into play, Mark. This is a scenario where if you have a game plan and you're basing the game plan on real fundamentals, everything you're invested in is, I guess, you're worried about the ups and downs every day if you're in speculative things. But if you're in good fundamental foundational things, we know the market's going to be volatile on a daily basis. So over the long haul, you don't need to worry. And again, if you have a game plan like we were just talking earlier, where your income is secure, your emergency money is secure, everything is secure, then what happens is if we do have volatility in the market, now we can actually leverage those things actually in your favor. Because when the market is down, your interest, your dividends are being reinvested. They're buying you more shares at cheaper prices. So now you're able to pick up, blue light specials and clearance sales on things. Maybe it's a good time for your portfolio to be reallocated. Maybe you take some of the fixed income and use that to buy more shares at cheaper prices. Maybe when the market's down, that's actually a perfect time to maybe do Roth conversions, because now we can convert more shares over for the same exact tax cost. So when the market does rebound, it's rebounding in a tax-free position as opposed to a tax-deferred position. So by structuring a plan correctly, now you're in a scenario that when markets are volatile or the market is down, you have a plan that you're like, oh, wait a minute. I have a strategy to actually leverage down markets in my favor over the long haul. So now you're actually using it in your favor rather than not having a plan, not having a strategy, trying to time the market, and now you're losing sleep. The market's down, and now you have to worry. Is my income going to last? When's the market going to come back? And, things of that nature. Am I Are things being intensified? I'm pulling money out as the market's going down. Now I'm intensifying my losses. We want to stay away from that. So really, as long as you have a great foundational plan, the market volatility stuff, let that, work in your favor. And you don't need to worry about, daily upswings and downswings. Again, not being in speculative things, but solid foundational things.
And more than likely, when you get into retirement, you're not going to have 100% of your money in the market. But if you don't really know where you are, and you'd like maybe, hey, I'd like to find out what would have happened to my portfolio where it is now if we went through another great recession like 07 to 09. Or what would happen in 2022? I think I said it was not a good year. Stocks and bonds down the same calendar year. I'm closer to retirement. I wonder if my 401k has gone more to the bond world. Probably hasn't grown much. I'm not really sure where I should be. This is your opportunity to talk with Rick and the team at Safeguard. 800-700-1980. No cost again for this. Complimentary. 800-700-1980. Great opportunity for you today, I think, to take advantage of this opportunity. 800-700-1980. Back with more of the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group right after this.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
Welcome back to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Learn more on the website, safeguardinvestment.com. You can always give them a call. And we're going to have a little mailbag segment here to wrap up today's show. We got questions, 4 different questions. If we get to all of them, we will. But one thing I always say, so the first question comes from Jonathan in Corona. And I always say this. If you were actually having a conversation with Rick and the team at Safeguard, it would be an opportunity for Rick to ask you follow-up questions, you'd ask him follow-up questions, and you'd really dive in and get the real answer. On the radio, Rick only knows what you say. So he doesn't know how old you are. He doesn't know how much income you need. He doesn't know if you're, 65 or 45. He doesn't know. So he doesn't know a lot of things. That's why I always think it's better to talk with the team. You can certainly do that, 800-700-1980. But that being said, I always think the questions are kind of fun. So, Rick, first question. Jonathan in Corona says this. Rick, I just found out I will be receiving about $100,000 from a life insurance policy after my grandpa passed away. So our condolences. I'm stunned by the amount because I really didn't expect it. So I have 2 questions. 1, what should I do with this money? Golf clubs, new golf clubs come into my mind, Rick, but that may not be the answer. What should I do with this money? And 2, I really want to be able to do something like this for my own grandkids one day. How could I make that happen?
First of all, that's a very good question. Hey, what should you do with the money? I think, the golf club idea is a great idea personally. But anyway, if we're going to get serious, well, the good news is that, with the life insurance proceeds, that's going to be tax-free to you. So when it comes to deciding what you should do with the money, is this, if your retirement, everything's already set, and this is just, hey, this $100,000 is not going to change my lifestyle. It's just an enhancement. And now you're telling me, hey, you'd like to do something for the grandkids, well, then maybe you can use part of that money to actually help out the grandkids. If there's some shortfalls in your retirement planning, then obviously it'd be good to sit down with somebody, and maybe they can, like a team like ours that specializes in retirement planning, and we can say, okay, here's some shortfalls in your retirement planning, and here's how this $100,000 or this new income that you just got in, here's how it can plug up some of those holes, or at least minimize some of the holes in your retirement. And here's how, now that you got this 100,000 or 500,000, whatever it is that you've inherited, not only is it important that it's invested correctly, but the other thing too is, if we're going to invest it, is it going to be invested with a tax managed approach? Because, let's say you have somebody that's collecting Social Security. Now they have this, life insurance that they received, and they're like, oh, this is great. I don't necessarily need the money to live on, so I'm going to throw it in a CD making 5%. And now that interest, whether you use it or not, you have to report on the return. And that interest, not only do you have to pay the taxes on it, but the interest that you earn on that money now can have a direct impact on how much your Social Security is subject to tax. So now going into the following year, you might get hit with some surprises that you didn't expect. So I think that whenever you get any type of life insurance or any type of inheritance or new money that comes in, it's so important that you sit down with an advisor, so that way you don't get caught by surprise with anything. We actually, when we have clients that inherit money like that, we'll sit them down and say, okay, what's the best way to structure this investment? So not only are you getting a fair rate of return, keeping up with inflation, all the rest of it, and plugging some holes, but how do we do it in a way that it's tax managed, that it's not affecting Social Security, your pensions, and all the rest of it? So we want to make sure that we're always doing things strategically as possible. And then, of course, I think the other thing is, hey, you'd like to do something like that for your own grandkids. Well, when it comes to life insurance, if there's something you can do for them now, maybe you should consider, okay, life insurance is one thing, but they're not going to get that technically until you pass on. If you have money that you want to put towards a life insurance, maybe consider, hey, maybe I can take that same money and put it in a 529 plan and maybe help them for college or help them for a down payment on a home. Maybe there's ways that you can invest that same money and do it more efficiently where you can help them now as opposed to, for them waiting till after you pass on. So there's a variety of different ways you can go. And even maybe for one grandchild, you're like, you know what, this grandchild's set. I'll go ahead and do a life insurance policy for them. But this other one could use a little help in this other area. Maybe I should do something different for them. So I would say sit down with somebody that specializes in the area and they can give you at least something to sink your teeth into where you can make a good decision as to what direction to go with that.
Yeah, Jonathan, so you can always call Rick and the team at Safeguard 800-700-1980. There's a lot of options in what you're trying to figure out. And that's where it comes into fruition, I think, to just actually talk with Rick. 800-700-1980. All right, next question, Jerry in Temecula. Rick, if we have a good amount of life insurance, we have about $800,000 in a 401k, we have a long-term care policy already set up, should we be okay for retirement? This would be the one I think you don't have all the information you might need.
Yeah, that's
because that sounds good. That's a pretty good start anyway.
Yeah, it sounds good.
And it might be all they need. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I get somebody that tells me, hey, Rick, I got $1 million saved up, and I read on the internet that you're supposed to have $1 million when you retire, and I did it. And then they tell me they need $10,000 a month out of that million. I'm like, hey, listen, I don't think this is going to last you the rest of your life. So maybe that's not so good. But then I get somebody else that maybe they saved, 300,000 and they're crying because they read on the internet, you need to save $1 million or whatever the general rule of thumb is. I sit down with them and their pensions and Social Security are $10,000 a month. The bills are $4,000. I'm like, listen, don't worry, you're going to be fine. The 300,000 can continue to grow. But let's just say, you're the money that you have saved in your 401k, the 800,000, you got plenty of life insurance, your long-term care is set up. That's fantastic. And let's say, once all those are locked in and your retirement is secure, then we say, okay, how can we add extra layers to this cake, so to speak? And what I mean by that is, okay, great, you saved, this 800,000. So depending upon your age, let's say you're, 62 or 65, and technically you don't need that money to live on, maybe just dip into it for emergencies and things of that nature. Well, we know that 800,000, maybe by the time you're 73 or 75, when your required minimum distributions hit, where the government's going to force you to take money out of that account, now that might be worth 1.6 million. And Uncle Sam's going to get a piece of your 1.6. So what we do is we say, okay, great, you're in a great position. So how do we add layers to this cake? Maybe there's a way where we can actually start slowly converting that 800,000 into a Roth IRA. So now we start buying Uncle Sam slowly out of your pocket. You pay the taxes on this money wholesale instead of retail. Now, by the time you're 73 or 75, you have a big chunk of this money over in a Roth side where Uncle Sam can't get his hands on. It's all tax-free for you. And the other advantage of the Roth is that now you're not forced to take distributions out of it. So any money that accumulates in that Roth beyond 73 or 74, it accumulates tax-free. Whatever happens to be left over, you can pass on to the children tax-free, as opposed to, the IRA 401k where they got to pay the taxes on it. And then now maybe you don't even need the life insurance anymore because your home's paid off, you have no debt, you have plenty of money in the 401k. So why are we spending money on life insurance if we don't technically need it? So again, there's a big picture here that we would need to look at, and everybody's situation is different. But again, once you have everything locked up, you sit down with somebody that specializes in retirement planning, and now they can say, okay, how can we level this up even further for you? And that's what we do.
All right, final question. About 2 minutes left in the program, Rick. This comes from Kathy in the Redlands. Rick, I'm 56 right now, and I really want to have $1 million saved before I retire. That's back to your $1 million you were just talking about. I'm doing a really good job saving into my 401k, but I can't ever seem to get very much set aside in cash. How can I do a better job building up my emergency fund?
Okay. This is actually a really good question, and I'll make this one, kind of short and sweet. I'm sorry I keep, dragging on. But this is where then we need to sit down and understand where the money is going. And the best example I can give you is so many times I'll meet somebody and they'll say, "Hey, Rick, I don't have enough emergency money sitting in cash, or I would love to save more into my 401k." And when we sit down and we break down where the money's going every month, I notice every weekend, they're spending $250 a week on a weekend going out to dinners and maybe, buying friends, drinks and doing this. And then, at the end of the month, they got an extra $1,000, $1,500 a month that they're spending on kind of like frivolous things. That I'm not saying that, we have to live for today as well, but maybe, we can say, hey, listen, you know what, maybe we can cut down on that a little bit. It's, I'm not saying give it all up, but say, hey, listen, instead of spending $1,500 a month, maybe we can spend $800 a month on going out and entertainment. And the other 800 can go towards, emergency funds or savings or going down to pay, debt on credit cards and all the rest of it. So it's really sitting down and breaking down where the money is going and making sure that, there's no, holes in the bucket. And we actually have a form that we can use to help people figure that out. And if you have questions on any of these things and you'd like information specific to your situation rather than, generalities, then I suggest just give us a call toll free 800-700-1980. And if you'd like to sit down with me directly, I'd be happy to offer that to you. Just give me 45 minutes of your time. And if you can't make it in the office, we can even do a Zoom meeting. Give me 45 minutes of your time and I can give you at least 2 ideas that at least enhance your situation. It'll cost you nothing to do. So just give us a call, toll free 800-700-1980, and I'll be happy to offer that to you.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC.